5 years ago, 72-year-old Nikolai met 20-year-old Nadya and brought her into his home. They fell in love, and soon she gave birth to his child. It seemed like an unexpected happiness found late in life. But then her family showed up, and in one day they took Nadya, took the child, and destroyed everything they had built together. 4 years have passed since then. Nikolai still doesn't know where his child is, and today he will see Nadya for the first time on a Russian talk show, where the truth will turn out to be far more complicated than he ever imagined. This is Russian television, where real people bring real stories, and nothing ever goes the way you expect. Today's story has a rescue, a secret, a child who disappeared, and a man who spent 4 years looking for answers. Nikolai, 72 years old, a pensioner living alone in a small village house. Nadya, 20 years old, no documents, no family, no past, or so it seemed, and a cast of relatives who show up swinging fists and never asking questions. Late one evening, Nikolai was sitting at a bus stop when he noticed a girl nearby, shorts in cold weather, bruised face. He didn't ask questions. He took off his jacket and offered his home. She said yes. By morning, she had a fever and Nikolai told her to stay. She stayed and started cleaning the house. Nadya rarely talked about herself, only that her grandparents raised her and they had died, that her parents treated her badly. And gradually the truth came out. Nadya had been working as a prostitute, not by choice. She was held in a brothel, beaten and thrown out onto the road, where Nikolai found her. After a few weeks, Nadya was the one who proposed. A 52-year age gap didn't bother her. He said yes, and soon she was pregnant. But Nadya had no documents. When police found out a pregnant woman was living with him without papers, relatives suddenly appeared and took her away. Nikolai didn't see her for 4 years. Nadya's aunt Tatiana comes to the studio. She didn't come to talk. She hits Nikolai, insults him, and declares they searched for Nadya for 2 years. But Nikolai has his own version. He says it plainly, Tatiana is the one who sold Nadya to the brothel. The studio explodes. Tatiana says that when they found Nadya, she was filthy, living in a tiny village shack, surviving on porridge, working like a servant. Nikolai's neighbor Oleg says something different. Nikolai saved her, pulled her out of the brothel, and gave her a real home. The audience is on Nikolai's side. Then Nadya's father Vasily enters the studio. He doesn't sit down. He lunges at Nikolai with his fists. They're barely pulled apart. Nadya's mother Elena comes to the studio. Now, sitting in the studio, she says nothing. No explanations, no answers, just silence. And that silence says more than any words could. And then Nadya walks into the studio. Nikolai sees her for the first time in 4 years. He says she looks frightened, controlled. Nadya says she was afraid of Nikolai. She tells her story, the brothel, the fear, the beatings, being sold to 3 men and dumped at a bus stop. And then she reveals something else. All week she lived at Nikolai's place, alone. He only came on weekends because he was staying at his daughter's and helping with his grandchild. And the question that hangs in the air? Nadya knew her parents' address. Why did Nikolai never once take her home? The baby was born at Nadya's parents' house. Nadya never held her, never saw her face. Her parents made her sign the papers. The baby went to an orphanage. Nikolai wants to find her, wants to raise her. Dima walks into the studio, Nadya's new boyfriend. He looks at Nikolai and asks directly, "Why did he even come here?" Nikolai answers calmly, says they can both come live with him. There's room for everyone. Dima is furious. The studio is screaming. Experts are tearing into the parents. Did they really sell their daughter to a brothel? Why won't they answer? Why do they only settle things with their fists? And then, completely out of nowhere, Dima gets down on one knee, asks Nadya's parents for her hand. Her mother stands up and walks out in silence. Nadya says yes. Dima carries her out of the studio in his arms. The show ran its own investigation. The child was found and placed with a foster family, identity protected. Nikolai never got his answer, but somewhere out there is a child who doesn't know this story exists. Who was the real villain in this story? The man who took her in? The family who took her away? Or the system that failed her from the very beginning? Russian television found the story, but not the justice.